Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September edition of Digging into the BI. This is where members of the Maryland chapter and the DC chapter get together and we look at the latest edition of the Better Investing magazine and we dig into it. And so tonight we're going to be looking at Amphastar, Pharmaceuticals, and Medtronic. Those are the two featured stocks. And then we're going to finish up with Lear Corporation and Supermicro Computer. So we have four great presentations for you. We're glad you're here. Please, let's go to the next slide. So this is the standard disclaimer that we use in the Better Investing community, is that these presentations are done for educational purposes. They're not designed for you to be able to purchase or buy or sell stocks. We believe that, like Better Investing, that all investors should conduct their own review and analysis of any company. We're going to be discussing stocks tonight, and the presenters may or may not own these in their personal portfolio or in their club portfolios. And if we show you any location sites outside of the Better Investing stuff, if they mention stuff like Value Line or CFRA or Morningstar, whatever, that's not an endorsement or promotion of those products or any other websites that they go to. So keep that in mind. And if you see here, we have the blue underline there. We are going to be recording this and we will put it up on our YouTube page, and I'll show you that in just a moment. Next slide, please. So here again, I see most of you are members of Better Investing, but if you're one of the people that are watching this on YouTube and you don't know who we are, this is Better Investing, and you'll see across the top of every one of these pages, we have the URL for Better Investing to take a look at it. And down there, there's a hyperlink to we're an investment education organization. We focus on long-term investing, and all of the presenters and myself, all of us are volunteers. None of us are professionals in this. We do this because we enjoy it. So let's go to our next slide. And so here's that YouTube page I just mentioned. You can be able to go there to that YouTube page, or you can just go to YouTube and type in their search window, Digging into BI, and you will find us. We right now have 172 subscribers to our page. That's really relatively small in the YouTube universe. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers. You can help us out by doing three things for this in return for this free educational program. And that is, like this video when it goes there. Share the video with people in your clubs or with friends or people that you're thinking of wanting to join your club. And then also subscribe to the channel. That's how this algorithm works, and we want to be able to share it. All of the webinars that go up there, they're all organized into chapters, and you can be able to see that over on the right hand side. Chapters is just a way they segment the video. So if you just want to listen to one of the presentations, you can just advance to that one and take a look at it. So anyway, make sure to subscribe and join us over there. Next slide, please. So again, most of you, we haven't had this trouble in a while, but here's some steps to be able to do troubleshooting. But what we want to really show you is that of those three arrows I have, the one down at the bottom, the green one, that's where you can get the handouts. You can only get the handouts if you actually are here live when we're doing this. They won't be up on the YouTube page, but you can share these PDFs, the 4 completed SSGs plus the entire slide deck. You can share that with people in your club or with anyone that you want to be able to see what's going on, or that you want to be able to get involved in your club. You can show them this is the way we sort of do things and like. So please make sure to download those handouts. You have the entire duration of this webinar to do it, and then after that it's gone. Next slide, please. So why are we doing this webinar? Well, we basically want to be able to show you how to use the Better Investing magazine and the resources. This is designed predominantly for people that have memberships in Better Investing. But again, you do not have to be a member of Better Investing to sign up for this webinar, to be able to be here, to be able to get these slides and stuff like that. But if you want to learn more about it, there's a free 90-day subscription that you can get by using that hyperlink down there. We focus on how to use our form. It's called the Stock Selection Guide. Sometimes we'll talk about the PERT report. That's also unique to Better Investing. We're trying to do best practices for a long-term fundamental investor, and this is a joint program that's put together by the 2 Mid-Atlantic chapters. That's for the Maryland chapter and the DC regional chapter, which includes DC, all of Virginia, and Montgomery County, Maryland. So you also have to be a a person who lives in either of the 2 states or the District of Columbia. You can be from anywhere. We're glad to have you. Thanks for being here. This is how this community works. Next slide, please. I'm still seeing, oh, there we go. So in just over an hour, we're going to be able to present 4 stocks. So we're going to do them pretty quickly. We're going to be able to feature, we always do the 2 featured stocks in the latest issue of the magazine. That's for members only, but we can be able to show you what we do. And those 2 features are the stock to study and the undervalued feature. Then after that, we ask the other 2 presenters to be able to pick something that they found through the BI website or through the BI community, the magazine, or a personal experience. You can see all the different ways you get it. And we really get a wide range of stuff, but there's so much you can get with a BI membership, and this is what we're trying to show you. Next slide, please. So you can be able to find out where the featured stocks are. And again, here it is on slide 8, is that, you do not need to be a member of Better Investing to get to this location. It's the home page, so that's betterinvesting.org. And then you can do About Us, and you can do the news releases, and you can be able to see that this was put up on June 14th, and you can be able to see all the stuff. You already see the stuff that's set up for October as well. So please share this with other people. It's a great way to sort of practice how to be able to do good stock studies. Next slide, please. So also, if you are a member, make sure to sign up for the announcements that come from headquarters. Headquarters is in suburban Detroit, and so they do have a weekly email subscription, and you can be able to get to that. If you see where that red arrow is up at the top under My Account, if you click on that, you'll open up, it will open up the screen capture I have over on the left-hand side where I have the My Account. If you come down to where I have the green arrow, that's email, product, and subscription information. If you click on that one, you'll go to the screen capture on the right-hand side that's also in the green box. And that's where you can be able to see where that arrow is. You can sign up for the local chapter news. If you're in the Maryland chapter, you get the Maryland chapter news. If you're in the DC chapter, you'll get those. If you're in a different chapter, you get that as well. But before you're gonna have to hit the Save Changes at Circle, but before you do that, see where that yellow line is? That's the BI Weekly e-newsletter. That is the one that you can be able to get from headquarters. Make sure to get it. There's a lot of good information that's going on there. Next slide, please. So this is what that weekly newsletter from headquarters looks like. This is a member exclusive. It highlights a lot of the educational information that's coming up. There's a webinar that they put on that's called Ticker Talk and Stock Up. There are places to find stock ideas that are called First Cut Reports. It comes out to close of business on Thursday. And if you signed up for it and you're not getting it, check your spam filter. I noticed that there's 2 things. They're actually doing the first arrow, the sort of gold arrow up in the top right. That is where they're going to do a series for beginners on how to do the SSG. Again, you don't have to be a beginner, and if you miss it, don't worry. There's a video library on the BI site that you can take a look at it. And then if you look down below, that there's a really good I can't even read it's so blurry there, I'm sorry. But I just noticed that was something that looked pretty good for learning and education. So please make sure to sign up for that. Next slide, please. So we also have a Facebook page. It originally was just a DC chapter, but Anna, if you guys have anything in the Maryland chapter, we're more than willing to put it up on our page to be able to do that. And this can be shared with people that are both BI members, Better Investing members, and non-BI members. It's a way, we don't put up a lot of stuff there, but it's a way to stay connected with us, and also for us to be able to find people that aren't in our normal network of folks. So just another way to find folks. So keep that in mind. If you have some ideas or so, we'd love to have you participate and be with us. Next slide. And Anna, why don't you tell us about what's going on in the Maryland chapter?
Will do. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. As Kevin said, this is a joint venture with the Maryland DC chapter. I am currently a director with the Maryland chapter and the outgoing president. Got 1 more year and I'm passing the baton. We are having our annual meeting on September the 21st. It's online. It is the Taxman Cometh. I know that Christy Powell has done this several times, and she did it at Bink. It's fantastic. It's a great opportunity. So if you're retiring, thinking about retiring, or know someone who is, this is a great opportunity for you to learn about how to make sure your tax dollars, or you do your taxes correctly for retirement. And we have an in-person SSG class in Southern Maryland from 9 to 2:30. You get a little break, but we try to go straight through, and we do offer follow-up classes after the class is over. So please check us out. We'll have one more activity in October. You'll see that next on the website. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. And Anna is our, like she said, the chapter president. Let's go to the other chapter president in the next slide, and that will be you, Cheryl. And just sort of FYI, Cheryl, once you're done with this, try to make me an organizer. I'm still a panelist.
Ooh, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so every month except for December, we have a Money Matters Financial Educations group session. And we have renamed it from Money Matters because we are going to be including the webinars and people's blogs and things like that that are of interest in the investing world and the financial world. And the next month is going to be a book called Living Your Best Financial Life. Save smart now for the future you want. And an interview, The Long View with Ann Lester. You're bad at savings and it's not your fault. So please stay tuned. It's always the third Tuesday of the month, and starting at 7:30 to 9. And there's a link on here that will take you right to it at that time and that day, which is September 17th is this coming up. So back to you, Kevin, and I will correct you being a panelist here, which will blank you out for a minute. So
okay.
Just be aware of that. There you go. Okay.
And this is the club that I'm involved in. This is the Maryland chapter, or I should say Montgomery County Model Investment Club. It's a DC chapter event. But Anna, if we want to make this a joint one with the Maryland chapter, we can have this. This is a live club where we do with live money. And so we have 5 partners. We meet on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. It's all online. There's the link to be able to come do it. You can see our education. We've been going through the book, The Psychology of Money. And one of our partners is going through it. And we also are then going to be doing a stock study on Brown & Brown, a financial institution. So please come and join us at 7 o'clock Eastern on the 3rd Wednesday of each month. Next slide, please. And Maskey, why don't you tell us about your club?
Investment Club of Northern Virginia. I've been a member of the club for more than 10 years. The club was started in 2008 with 14 partners, and we meet on the second Tuesday of the month for a planning meeting, and on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, we do our actual meeting from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. It has been wonderful for me to be a member of the club because there are so many great members, with so much experience that I have learned a lot in this club. And I think Cheryl will add more if she likes to, because she has been a member, from, I don't know, since probably the beginning of this club. That is all I have.
Okay. Well, you did a great job. We'll let Cheryl talk about other things.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Next slide, please. And Cheryl, this is all you. So see, Cheryl will be able to talk.
Yep. And going back to McNova, it's the club actually meets on the 2nd Tuesday of the month. The planning meeting's the week before that. But anyway, sorry, Maskey. This is a new program called Club Connect, and it is taken over the Visit a Club, which was previous program that they had, and it works now to connect not only people who are looking for clubs that are individual investors now, but they're looking to join a club, but also works with clubs that are looking for new members. And so it really works to get those people together so that they can form an investing community on their own. And you can have the free 90-day membership program to help you get started on that. And still the decision to join a club or not, as well as accept a new partner or not, remains with the club and the potential new partner. So just keep that in mind. And back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Next slide. And so this is digging into the BI. So we like to be able to remind people to dig into your magazine. I can show you on the left-hand side, you can get it on the app. I periodically have asked people if they read it on the app. I get it connected to both my smartphone, my laptop, my tablet, so you can see it there. And you can get the e-magazine, and from there, that works off of, traditionally just the same way it would with anything off of the World Wide Web, but you get it earlier this way. So let's go to the next slide. And we always like to feature something going on in the magazine. Well, first of all, here's how to be able to get that information if you wanted to be able to get the app. If you look over on the left-hand side on that screen capture where I have the green arrow, that's where you can be able to sign in for the Better Investing magazine for mobile devices. The other thing is that with our featured stocks, again, that's the stock to study an undervalued feature, there's additional reports that the magazine article will always talk about. And that's that red arrow. And if you click on that, you can be able to get additional information like the value lines and some of the other information they use to help make their judgments. So you can do those two things. And then if you sit there and you click where that green highlight is right in the center where it says View Magazine Issues, that's where you can get to it. Now let's go to the next slide. And this is one of the stock that this was the article that sort of caught my eye. It was talking James Skutbick, if I'm saying his name right. He's part of the same group that does the investor advisory service and stuff. And so he's been writing some columns there. But this with the yield sign column, he talks about how you can even find healthy dividends with small cap companies and how you can search for them either by looking at ETFs or at screening. So go ahead and he walks you through some screening ways to do it as well as ETFs. So go ahead and take a look at that. If you're looking for small companies that also pay a dividend, that may be something to take a look at. Next slide. We got a second one that I wanted to be able to put up here. This is a column that's put up, I think usually monthly, and Angelle McQuaid usually will talk with someone because they've reached out to her and she basically does a Q&A with them. And this particular person, Catherine Phillip, she lives in Columbia, Maryland, and she actually has started a club back in '85 because she was teaching a personal finance class. And so, just what she's doing to be able to help, empower her children and her grandchildren on how to be able to do investing and stuff like that. So it's a really nice Q&A, and we like to be able to highlight anyone that's either coming from Maryland, DC, or Virginia that's in the magazine. We like to sort of cheer for them. So there you go. I never met Catherine, but I hope she's doing well, and maybe at one point we even get her to do a presentation for us here. Next slide, please. Finally, here is I always like to be able to look at page 51. Again, this is digging into the BI, so we do want to be able to dig into the magazine if you remember. And so this is compiled by headquarters. And there's a lot of things that are going on September 14th. I only featured the South Florida chapter going on there, but they have a free thing where they're doing their own sort of learn to earn program to take a look. Also, Oregon has something that's going on at 9 o'clock Pacific time, so that's noon here on the East Coast. But there's a whole range of different things. This entire month, it looks like everything's on the 14th. But go ahead and look at slide 51 or page 51 in your hardback magazine and be able to see there's a lot of good things that you can go and take a look at. Next slide, please. So we've done a lot of talking about what's going on. Now we're going to start discussing stocks. So we're going to do the first two are going to be done in core, and Maskey's going to be able to talk about Amphastar Pharmaceuticals, which is a stock to study, and followed up, Miriam will be able to talk about Medtronic, which is the undervalued feature. So let's go to the next slide, and Maskey, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Maskey, member of the Model Investment Club of Northern Virginia. I found Amphastar Pharmaceutical Company in the September issue of BI Magazine Stocks to Study. Next slide. Members of the Editorial Advisory and Securities Review Committee acknowledge that the stock has a track record of relatively expensive appearing valuations. At the same time, they emphasize the company has exhibited strong long-term growth plus solid cash flow. Next slide. Amphastar Pharmaceuticals manufactures generic and proprietary injectable inhalation and intranasal products, including products with high technical barriers to market entry, as well as insulin-active pharmaceutical ingredient products. Most products are used in hospitals and urgent care settings. Primatene Mist is its sole over-the-counter product. Others including epinephrine, glucogen, lidocaine, and enoxaparin sodium. They sell over 25 products and have over 20 pipeline candidates as of 2024. Next slide. Amphastar is a fully integrated business model which includes product development, key components manufacturing, marketing and distribution, and keeps quality and compliance controlled throughout each life cycle. Next slide. Amphastar has a growth strategies from 2018 to 2023. Its primary organic growth in pipeline development includes Primatene Mist, glucogen injection, Rextovy TM, and insulin analog. The secondary inorganic growth resulted from the strategic acquisitions of Armstrong, AFP, and Baqsimi from 2003 to 2023. Next slide. Management insists on high quality, efficiency, and technology. This focus results in high net profit margins. Revenues have tripled from 295 million in 2018 to 644 million in 2023. The net income margins have increased from 3.5% in 2018 to 27.3% in 2023, almost 9 times during those years. Next slide. Amphastar pipeline population consists of 3 product areas. Biosimilar production is projected to more than double from 2021 to 2025, while proprietary patented protected products are projected to increase by more than 2.5 times for the same period, thus bringing in more royalties in the form of revenues from acquisitions. Generic products where the patent has expired are projected to decrease from 60% to 15% by almost 4 times. Next slide. The prior slide demonstrates how the acquisitions described on slide 4 will result in current and future products that create the shift towards proprietary and biosimilar drugs such as diabetic portfolio and inhalation pipeline. Next slide. Primatene Mist is the only patented, protected, FDA-approved and asthma inhaler product available over the counter to treat breathing problems. It was launched in December 2018 and has a population of over 20 million asthma sufferers in the US alone. Mist is currently the only enoxaparin sodium injection. Insulin analogs are modified to treat diabetes by controlling blood glucose levels at different amino acid sequences, which changes how long and when insulin works. The FDA has approved the first generic of glucogen for injection for the treatment of severe hypoglycemia, very low blood sugar. Rextovy nasal spray indicated for emergency treatment of known or suspected opioid overdose as manifested by respiratory and or central nervous system depression for adult and pediatric patients. Enoxaparin injection is used to prevent deep venous thrombosis, a condition in which the harmful blood clots form in the blood vessels of the legs. These blood clots can travel to the lungs and can become lodged in the blood vessels of the lungs, causing a condition called pulmonary embolism. The glucogen-like peptide 1 receptor, GLP-1R, is a G protein coupled receptor found on beta cells of the pancreas and on neurons of the brain. It is involved in the control of blood sugar level by enhancing insulin secretion. AFP is a glycoprotein. AFP is used to detect and diagnose certain cancers. It can also be used to follow up with patients undergoing cancer therapy. Next slide. Amphastar self-funded $345 million in R&D investments that were used to expand the product portfolio in the last 5 years. Its focus was also made to diversify pipeline development and long-term growth of the company. Next slide. Growth from organic and inorganic strategies increased revenues year over year by an average of 19% and earnings per share by an average of 74% year over year for the last 5 years. Next slide. The increase of existing products provides a very strong base when you compare the percent growth and increased product diversification from 2014 to 2023. Next slide. Baqsimi, which is one of the prime revenue drivers, has annual sales that have more than doubled in the last 3 to 4 years. Annual sales are projected to reach $250 million to $275 million in 2023, while earnings per share are projected to grow from 18 cents to $2.50 in 2023, as Amphastar takes over the distribution of Baqsimi from Lilly, the company, on a country-by-country basis from 2024, thus giving Amphastar a global reach. Next slide. The acquisitions for recent filings and planned filings in 2024 with the FDA will lead to an increased proprietary product in their strategic growth as stated in slide 6. Next slide. The SSC for AMPH was done using core SSG. The graph for AMPH is more up, straight, and parallel compared to its peers and better than the industry average. The historical growth rate for AMPH is 19%, better than ProCap's. Recent quarter results of 25.2% are also better than their peers. Simply Solvent is too small a company to compare. Next slide. AMPH EPS growth for the last 5 years is also up, straight, and as compared to its peers. The recent quarterly results for AMPH are up 49.6%, while the peers are also on the negative side. Next slide. Value Line predicts sales to grow at 12.5%, while I have used 12.2%, slightly below Value Line's estimate, which results in a 5-year projected sale of $1.268 billion. Next slide. For EPS, I have used 12%, which results in a 5-year projected EPS of $5.52. The growth rate predicted by Value Line is 18%. Next slide. The SSG forecasted 5-year average high PE of 24.2. I used the 5-year average PE of 18.8 to forecast a high price of $103.80. Next slide.
4 minutes, Maskey, 4 minutes.
Thank you. For the low price, I selected $35.2. 80% of the current price of $44 as of August 8, 24. Next slide. AMPH is in the buy range with an upside downside ratio of 6.82 to 1. Morningstar considers $57.58 a fair value. The stock is undervalued at 27% discount. Next slide. The stock is purchased at the current price of $44. It is likely to double, and it'll using a high forecast PE, it'll result in a 18.7%, more than double your money over the next 5 years. The company does not pay currently does not pay any dividend. Next slide. Today's price is $44.54 as of today. With this current price, you're likely to more than double your money if you buy the stock at this price. It's a small size growth company. It's a well-managed company. It is trading within the buy range. It is a worthy candidate to add to your watch list for further study. It is within the buy range of up to $52.30. The buy price is to satisfy upside downside ratio of 3.3:1 for a 15% total return. That's my conclusion for this company.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maskey. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's move into our next one. And Miriam's going to be able to talk to us about Medtronic, which is the undervalued feature for this month. Go ahead, Miriam.
Hi, everyone. I'm a new member since May. This is my second presentation. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about Medtronic. It's a company that manufactures all the way to, it starts manufacturing, but it goes all the way to sales of therapies and devices used for a number of diseases. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we found this stock because it was in the Better Investing magazine. It was one of the stocks that was that appeared in I think it was in the June version of the magazine. So the quote here is that reportedly the world's largest pure play medical device manufacturer, Medtronic, offers a breadth of product lines addressing about 70 diseases. The company's bringing out even more advanced devices with several recently receiving go-aheads or nearing approval. These advances, the post-pandemic demand surge, and the heightened healthcare needs of an aging population in many countries may bode well for the stock's prospects in coming quarters, suggested members of the Security Review and Editorial Advisory Committee. What you'll see in the second box is the credentials of the people who make up this committee. So I'm in no way as credentialed as they are. So I hope that my analysis is going to be insightful, but by no means is it professional. Next slide, please. So the diseases, the 4 broad segments of diseases that Medtronic devices and therapies target are cardiovascular illnesses, neuroscience types of issues, diabetes, and medical surgical devices. They have clients that consist of hospitals and clinics in over 150 countries. They compete with Abbott Laboratories, Becton Dickinson, Boston Scientific, Stryker, and Johnson & Johnson. One of the things as I was looking up this company, I realized that one of the issues of it is that it's very expensive to operate. And it depends on tariffs, global regulatory conditions, Particularly, let's remember this is a company that might sell medications or medical devices, and they're like the equivalent of the FDA and all these different countries that they operate in that they have to pass. So next slide, please. This is what it looks like. The blue line is Medtronic, the dark blue line, and you can see that at times Johnson & Johnson beats it. At times it's, you know, doing fairly well in terms of its competitors. I thought that this was for the last 5 years, but it looks like it's looking between 9:30 a.m. to 3:30. So I apologize for that if this is all from one day. Maybe we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so we looked at the historical stock prices for the last 10 years, pretty much. It's ranged between 79.5 at the highest to 135.89, and at the lowest, it's ranged from 55.5 to 98.38. In sales, you can see the percent of sales growth is 3.1, EPS is 2.4. One of my concerns about this company, and I'm going to bring it up here, is that you'll notice that between 2019 to 2020, there's a decline in the EPS, and then between 2021 to 2023, there's another decline that happens every year. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but we'll keep digging in. Next slide, please. When it comes to pre-tax profit on sales, you know, in the last 5 years, the average has been 15.28, which isn't a bad number, except, you know, the number has been declining a little bit in the last couple of years. So that's something worth thinking about. Next slide, please. All right, this is the return on equity, and 7.99 is not too bad. You'll notice that in 2014, the return on equity was much higher than it is in 2023. So they're managing debt somewhat well. Next slide. And there's the debt to capital ratio, and it is 32.7% for the last 5 years, and pretty much is 40% in 2014, which is 10 years ago. You know, for whatever it's worth, this is some information to keep in mind. Next slide. I got to take a look at headlines to just try to understand what they're working on. So I guess they are one of the largest medical device makers, and now one of the things that they're focusing on is developing artificial intelligence in real time that will look at your cells and give a more accurate diagnosis. If there's like a false positive, it kind of rules those out in case someone thinks there might be a cell or a part of your body that's not very healthy looking. It kind of, AI is being used to ensure that like the accuracy of these kinds of decisions. When we talked about the debt to capital ratio, this article said that last year, Medtronic, based in Dublin, Ireland, opened a 100,000 square foot facility in the Channel Center near the Seaport District as headquarters for this engineering business, which locally employs about 350 people. And so it's kind of interesting look, you know, that's probably not very cheap. Let's go on to the next slide, please. I took a look at, I guess these are some press releases, and here they talk again about the importance of using AI in, they're talking about, they use the word endoscopic care, so it's possibly during surgeries. They talked a lot about colon pro, so I wonder if it's for colonoscopies where they go in and They look at, your digestive tract, I guess, and see if there's any polyps that could potentially be cancerous. So, definitely not a medical doctor. It's really interesting to read these things. I don't know how much of the science is behind these goals and these quotes. So over here, you'll see it says, I believe AI has the power to transform global health systems to help them function as they should, efficiently and accessible to all with guardrails in place. Our industry can use AI to create a future that serves patients and clinicians better. So it's definitely, they're focusing on several things related to AI. I think on their website, I kind of tried to double check to see what their website said. It said that they measure things like blood oxygen saturation. So they give you all these indicators, and they basically are telling you that their technology is helping them develop small devices that can be implanted in your body that basically sense how healthy you are and provide you with whatever you need as you go through your day. Kind of like maybe how a pacemaker or like one of those automatic diabetes insulin kind of packs might work on a human body. Next slide, please. So I looked at their investor reports, and here it was kind of interesting because it looked like they had over 100 products that were approved in the last 12 months, and they say in key geographies. So I tried to figure out where exactly they were talking about, and it seems like it includes the US, the European Union, Japan, and China. And these are direct, these are very direct, like, so these are the company Medtronic going out to the equivalent to the FDA in all these countries. And it's directly, it doesn't include any, partners that they may have that are trying to seek these regulatory approvals on their behalf. So this is a lot if you think about it, because it allows, so the approval is the first step in allowing these treatments to be available. But I don't really, I haven't been able to sit there and think about, okay, what's the population of people who have these illnesses or who might need these services across all these different countries. I wasn't able to, I just don't think that this is necessarily a sign of increase in sales, but it's definitely potential for more sales. So next slide, please.
Miriam, you have 5 minutes.
Okay. So they try to be sustainable in their practices. So let's go on to the next one. Sorry. Here's some information from Yahoo and Value Line on that help me make the predictions in the coming slides. Next slide, please. So over here, I chose 36 as a high PE forecast ratio, and that takes the highest stock price forecast to 156.6. Its current price is about 90. Can we go on to the next slide, please? And for the low, I chose 23, which takes the low stock price to 68.1, which is a little bit below the 80% of its current price, which is 71.9. Next slide, please. So this gives us the range for what an acceptable buy, sell, and hold is. Right now, I would say we're probably in the hold, or the threshold between the buy and the hold. The price is currently $89.9. Next slide, please. Without dividends, it's 3:1, the upside downside ratio. So still a higher chance of making money on the stock. But once again, I'm very hesitant, regardless, to I kind of don't know what to think about its if this means that one should actually buy or not. Okay, so next slide. One of the interesting things is that the slide provides a yield of 2.3% a year. So that's in addition to any growth that you might experience. That's a little added consideration. Next slide, please. In all of these years, you'll see since 2019, there have been regular dividend payouts. I checked multiple sources, eventually went to NASDAQ. In some sources, I was worried that some years, like 2016, I could only see 3 quarters where there was a dividend payout, and I panicked. But when I went to NASDAQ, it seemed like it was pretty consistent. Every quarter there was a payout. And one of the things that you'll notice about the dividend is the amount increases every year. So it's, you know, kind of, I guess, a positive thing they can pay back shareholders. Next slide, please. So yes, I think that, you know, it's one of the things about these large medical device companies is that it's very, very expensive to make a breakthrough, and a scientific breakthrough does not necessarily correlate with increase in sales. And so I'm a little bit, you know, kind of on the fence about this company because it's a growth company, but it seems like it's such a large company and the growth is a little bit slow and maybe not very reliable from year to year. Pre-tax profit is down, return on equity is not very high, debt to capital is average. So, you know, I don't know enough about the different companies to say that's okay, one medication works better than the other. I don't know the science of it. So, you know, that's kind of how I feel right now, very on the fence. It seems like it's fairly valued, given its earnings per share, and it is a buy. It says here up to $74. I'm not sure necessarily that's what, I'm not sure if that was the right value or not. You know, they do have a lot of different products. It's well
Miriam, I
diversified.
think I may have transcribed that incorrectly. So that's what we get for having volunteers put this together. So don't worry about that. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think it's a buy up to $90, which would make it just under in the threshold between buy and hold. But you know, they have a lot of different products. You know, the fact that they deal with neuroscience stuff, which could relate to Alzheimer's, and then they have the diabetes stuff, which could make our company a competitor of the first company that Maskey just presented. They really are well enough diversified, but I'm not sure it's really growing in the last couple of years. So maybe just watching its growth and seeing what happens would be my advice if I had to give any. But like I said, I wouldn't take advice from myself. So this is just presenting this information for informational purposes. Thank you very much. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Miriam. And again, the fact that you have only been part of Better Investing since you went to Bink in May, the fact that you've already done 2 presentations is just amazing. So kudos to you. Great job. And this is how you learn. All right, so now we're going to do 2 in SSG Plus. We're going to start with Anna, and she's going to talk to us about Lear Corporation that she found through their SSG class that they did. And then we're going to finish up with Lee Outlaw, who's going to be looking at super microcomputer. So let's go to Anna and take it away.
I will apologize. 2 things. One, I'm a newbie at doing this as well, and this is not in Plus. This is in Core. So I think I got our wires crossed there. I apologize for that,
That's
Kevin and
okay.
everybody.
Once again, we're not professionals here.
So as Kevin said, the Maryland chapter did an SSG class, and we did our class on evidence 5 years ago. So this is all new information because we do the class in the past. Next slide, please. So Lear is a large company, and it deals with auto parts. And in the auto industry, rephrase that. Lear has 2 segments. It has its seating segment and it has its e-system segments that they are focusing on to better enhance our driving pleasures. Next slide, please. So in the auto industry right now, the auto industry is having a little downfall after having a nice rise during the pandemic with people being able to afford cars. The rates were low and the supply was low, so demand was high. So the auto industry had a good run for a while. Now they're trying to recuperate, or not recuperate, trying to get back on track with getting people to come in with the rates they expect to go down this month. That may help the second quarter of second half of this year. Next slide, please. So Lear, just give a little history about Lear. They started off as a seat frame company. They went into being public in 1994. They, like a lot of businesses, they went bankrupt in 2009, but then they came back and have been a force ever since. They work with companies like Fiat, Ford, and Volvo for their products. And basically their products are, oh, next slide, please. Oh, okay. I took some information from Value Line just to get an understanding of where we thought the company was going to go, if it was overvalue, if it was a buy or a hold, or what the consensus was. As you see, the different analysts had different opinions as to how Lear would perform for the rest of this year. And the Value Line basically just give you some information as to the future plans of the company. Next slide, please. Now, I have to admit, I did change the competitors for Lear that the SSG came up with. I came up with APTV, which is APTV. It's an Irish American company that is still in Ireland. It grew out of the defunct General Motors company. It's a tech supplier. Magna, which is MGA, is an international tech company out of Canada, and it specializes in parts. And then LKQ is another parts company. So what I try to do is put all the competitors on one screen so you can see them and how they're compared to the rest of them. And I put Lear with the industry. And as you can see, Lear and the industry were pretty much doing basically the same amount of business. Seems like all the companies in 2020, of course, that was the most height of the pandemic, had a dip, except for LKQ, which seemed to have a slight dip and has continued to be steady ever since. So that was a good sign for me to keep an eye on LKQ. Next slide, please. So what I did was I went through and I took off the last 5, and I also took off 2020 because that to me was not much of an outlier, but it was an outlier going from 19 million billion and then up to 23. I saw there was a steady growth with the company, and for me, the 4% was sufficient. I saw the change from quarter over quarter last year. It's a slight change, but in this industry, a slight change is still profitable. Next slide, please. Basically, same thing with the earnings per share. To me, it looks like the earnings per share was in line or the same growth as the sales. So when I made my projections, I try to stay within that 2-point range. But as you can see, there's a lot of activity with the competitors on the earnings per share as well. Next slide, please. So the pre-tax profit, the pre-tax profit gives me an idea as to how management, how the company was being managed. And for the industry, for the competitors, you can see that for ATV, it was all over the place. LKQ, it was going up and down, and I think a lot of the companies weren't very stable at this time. But it looks to me that Lear, even though it had a little bump, like I said, with everybody in 2020, it seems to be stabling off now in 23, 24. So to me, it looks like the management of Lear is doing a good job of managing the company's funds. Next slide, please. So the return on equity is basically showing how the company is using their funds to grow the company. And for Lear, they are had a good run in 2019, had a dip again, like for everybody in 2020, and it's been increasing. 22 was another slight dip, but for for Lear, which you'll see in a few minutes, as to why the return on equity for their peers may be a little bit off, is because of how Lear managed the company. The management of the company uses their debt to grow the company. Next slide, please. So, as you can see, Lear, their debt is pretty much been level. It's steady, but it's level, and the company management seems to be able to manage the debt very well. It's a little higher than what we would like, being in the 30s, but for this company and how they grow, it's necessary for them to have consistent debt on their books until, in my brain, they get their own R&D section, which they are developing more and more with their e-systems that they have been purchasing along the way. Excuse me. Next slide, please.
5 minutes, Anna, 5 minutes.
Okay. So for Lear, just wanted to go through, this will give you a better understanding as to their debt. They've made several acquisitions, and that is what's putting them in a good position in the industry. In 1999, they bought the E-Systems, which is their brainchild that is now growing, at least for them, showing an increase from the previous years of conditional 2%. They bought Guilford, and they bought leather, and they bought fabrics. The thing that is most important to us all, especially to me, I have to say, is the comforts inside the automobiles that they purchased mostly in 2022 and going into 23. All of the AI for your car, your seats that are heated, your lumbar seats, the massages in your seats. I have to admit, I did buy my car for some of those luxuries, and I'm sure others have as well. But that's a lot of what Lear has done with their money. Their debt. They buy companies, which puts them uses a lot of their equity, but they turn around and use their equity to pay down their debt as well. Next slide, please.
3 minutes.
Okay, my forecast, I use 3% for my sales comparison. Next slide, please. This was to go on and to say that how they get their money with the industry. Next slide, please. And my forecast for the earnings per share, I use 2%. Next slide, please. My high price, I use 15% for my my high, I sort of did a combination between the current PE and the average PE, and came with the middle of the road equation as to how I got my high PE forecast. Next slide, please. So with that, oh, just it's not right. I'm sorry. I actually, when I did my presentation, I thought I picked the 88.2, the 80% of the current price. I'm sorry. Next slide, please. So with the, oh, okay, it's here. I'm sorry, I don't know how that happened. Anyway, the upside down ratio, it shows currently that this is a buy. Depending on your thought process, you can, if you go with the 82, the 88, or if you go with the 107, you could possibly double your money in the 5 years that, based on this information that we have, and the upside down ratio of 3.7 to 1. It could be a buy. You're slightly into the whole range. Next slide, please. I think I'm running out of time. Wanted to give little information earlier about the different prices. The estimates that the analysts were giving was the low price of 127, and with me using the 88, even if you use the 107, it would take the property out of a buy range. However, it does give a high range going up to 200. Next slide, please. Oh, did I just, yes. Okay. In conclusion, it's a large company. To me, it's even though it's growing slow, I think it will continue to grow slow. I think it's a well-managed company. I think it will continue to develop and grow into different areas and improve in the areas that they have. I think it's fairly priced. At this point, I wouldn't recommend buying it, only because there seems to be a decline in their seating segment of the company, as well as the fact that they're going to reduce 8% of the employees in their seating section of their company, and they're proposing to repurchase stock to increase their bottom line by the end of this year. So those are things for me I would like to watch and see how it actually affects the company. I know it came up as a buy, but I would consider, putting this on a watch before I purchase. Thank you, Kevin. That's all that I have.
Good to have. All right, so let's go to the last, but certainly not least one, and we're going to have Lee Outlaw talk about super microcomputer. And go ahead and take it away, Lee.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm Lee Outlaw. I'm a volunteer director for DC Regional Chapter, and as Kevin said, I'll be doing super microcomputer, which was added to both the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 this spring. Next slide. So I found the found the stock with the assistance of online tool Ticker Map. Looked at it on the 30th of July. I actually stumbled across it accidentally. I wanted to go into the technology field and was looking at the greener stocks, but somehow I wrote down SMCI, and looking at it, I saw that it had a greater than 100% gain this year, even though it was approximately 50% off its year high. So that kind of piqued my curiosity. And in checking the value line report, I noted that the value line said, suggests investors buy the stock, which is the first time I'd ever seen that written on a value line report. And for August, it was number 31 most active on the most active list. Next slide. So Super Macro is a large stock headquarters in San Jose, California. It's a leading computer and server provider for the age of generative AI. In addition to a full line of rack and blade servers for cloud, enterprise, data center, and other applications, it provides GPU-based systems for deep learning, high-performance computing, and other applications. And generative AI is driving unprecedented demand for Supermicro's advanced applications requiring rack scale solutions. Next slide. So this is a condensation of the CFR business summary. The stock is a global leader in high performance, high efficiency server and storage system technology. Its strategy is centered around delivering optimized high performance server and storage solutions to support next generation's IT environments. The global server and storage market is estimated to reach 111 billion by 2025, and Supermicro's larger original equipment manufacturer competitors include Dell Technologies, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Lenovo, Inspur, and Honeywell, and you could probably also add IBM to this group. Next slide. So Supermicro has experienced exponential growth over the past 2 years, 14.94 billion in FY24, which is 143% year over year gain, on its way to its annual revenues goal of 50 billion. They've experienced 5 times plus growth versus the industry average over the past 12 plus months. And on its recent earnings call, they announced that the fourth quarter FY24 revenues, 5.31 billion, exceeded their full year revenues for FY22. Next slide. So this slide depicts Supermicro's significant production and rack scale solutions, which you see in the upper right. Next slide. Okay, so this slide talks about the innovations through teamwork. The company is situated in Silicon Valley, which has its advantage. Its partner of choice is for NVIDIA. Supermicro is its partner of choice. Also has partnerships with other industry leaders for AI generations. And in the case of NVIDIA, they both commenced operations in 1993. Their headquarters about 15 minutes apart. So they've worked out a lot of synergy between them. Supermicro has a global footprint with a presence in Taiwan, the Netherlands, and a facility in Malaysia scheduled to open before the end of this year. Next slide. So this slide shows their FY24 highlights and kind of their problems at the same time. Their fiscal year ended on the 30th of June. They reported their FY 2024 results on the 6th of August. For the fourth quarter, net revenue increased, showed 140% year over year gain. Earnings were $6.25, which was a per share, which is a $2.64 increase over the previous year, represented a 78% gain. However, both of these represented quarter over quarter declines. The gross margin was negative for both quarter over quarter and year over year, and their cash flow from operations while improved from the previous quarter, was still negative for the fourth quarter and year over year. And all this weighed on the market and triggered their August sell-off. But their Charles Lang, their founder, president, and CEO, attributed the results to long-term investments and anticipates that the short-term margin pressure will ease and return to normal ranges before the end of FY 2025. Next slide. So here's a look at their 2024 revenue growth, as well as their fourth quarter revenue mix by geography. The lion's share of the revenues being in the US, followed by Asia. If you look at the midpoints of their revenue and EPS outlook, revenue represents a 5.3% increase for quarter one and an 88% increase for the full year. And for non-GAAP EPS, their forecasts for, I guess, the quarter one represents a 19.7% increase. Next slide. So this is the 1 year price curve for Supermicro. And if you're a CNBC watcher, you undoubtedly heard a lot about Supermicro, as they've been mentioned quite often. The stock has been on a roller coaster ride this year. It's been riding the downslope since reporting its third quarter earnings that showed receding operating margins. And the next slide will provide some details on the downward movement. So
5 minutes, Lee. 5 minutes,
okay,
Lee.
yeah, what you have here is just some news clips. So you see that they had a great blowout second quarter, and this was followed by earnings disappointment in the third quarter, and also earnings report for the fourth quarter. And also in August, there was a short-term sellers report that gave some bad news. And when the Supermicro reported, the annual report, the stock also slid. And also, I guess I mentioned the short seller report. Next slide. Okay, so this was CFRA's report. This is their report after the short seller report. And basically, they took the stock from a buy on the 14th of August to a hold. They changed their 12-month target from 629 to 454. However, their fair value calculation was raised from 745 to 833. Next slide. So here is the value line report that I saw. If you look at the last bullet, you'll see that where they say it's a compelling value, and they suggested that investors buy the stock. I highlighted a couple of figures on the slide. They're on the left, their midpoint stock price estimate, projected annual return, high and low. They also indicated the volatility of the stock, which you saw on a couple of slides earlier. On the right, you see their projected earnings 5 years out and their projected sales 5 years out. And basically, I use those targets to derive their sales growth and EPS growth, which you'll see on the next slide. Next slide.
2 minutes.
Okay, so 18.5 for the sales growth, 17.5 for the EPS growth. Trends are generally good, except if you look at 2024, you'll see kind of a downward trend, and that basically reflects the results of the last 2 quarters of the year. Downward trend from 22 and 23 to 24. Next slide. Here you see the, let's see. peer comparison, Super Macro and Pure Storage experienced fairly comparable sales growth. Super Macro exceeds Hewlett-Packard, Dell, Hewlett-Packard and Dell in the industry and peer averages. Next slide. For earnings, their growth rate percentages do not portray current reality in my view, but Super Macro has the most promising trend line from 2020 to 2024. I have to note that Dell's most recent quarter-over-quarter performance is 85.7 is impressive. Next slide. On your peer management comparisons, generally super computer, with the exception of, let's see, Dell return on equity is better than all the other metrics you see for the other companies in the industry and peer group averages. Next slide. So here we have the earnings history for high PE. I scratched 2024, and that gave me a high PE of approximately 22, which is like close, about the same as the current high PE. And Super Macro does not offer dividend. Next slide. Okay, as stated, I used a high PE of 22. Forecasted low PE is 330, which is about 75% of its 30 August close, which put the stock in the buy zone. An upside downside ratio of 5.1 to 1. Next slide. And as a buy. Okay, so here you see the 5-year potential compounded annual return high of PE, using a high PE, 17.7%. Per the zoning, and my analysis indicated Super Macro is a buy up to 495. It closed today at 380. Oh, excuse me. It closed last Friday at 386.46. Closed today at 409.87. And in conclusion, so I call Super Macro a large explosive growth stock. Their management is under scrutiny due to short seller allegations. Their internal controls have been called into questions. Here I state that the current PE indicates that it's overvalued as it's trading above the 5-year average. And I have to mention, this overvalue was based on using the 2024 PE of 61.7. Super Macro is currently a buy up to 553.50 with a 3-to-1 upside down ratio and a 15% TR. I think it's a worthy candidate to add to a watch list or a buy, but caution may be appropriate given Hindenburg Research recent allegations, or until those allegations are put to rest. If I could add one thing, Kevin, and that is, it seems like when I was early on, they told us that you should have 5 stocks. One's going to do really well, 3 is going to do average, and you might want to invest in a flyer. This stock could be one of those flyers. So that's all I have.
Very, very good. Thank you, Lee. Okay, so let's go to sort of a review. If we go to our next slide, we went through these relatively fast. And so we want to do a recap. And what we like to do is we like to be able to show this sort of on where it fits sort of on a life cycle. So there are all the 4 stocks, and we're going to ask all of our presenters to ask why they selected the location that we went to. So let's go to our next slide. And so this is the T. Rowe Price life cycle. Over on the left-hand side is a quote from it. And this image is shown up a lot in the digital handbook, as well as several other places. And so let's first go to Maskey and tell us why you put Amphastar pharmaceutical right there smack in the middle, AMPH.
Pipeline products. It's got a lot of pipeline products, and also it's a small size company. It has got the near or explosive growth, and I think it has the potential to grow faster. I think because of all the products, that it has the pipeline products and the past products, and then the kind of products that they have and serving the community, the glucogen, primatine mist that is used to treat 20 odd million people in the US alone, and then the diabetes, there's a lot of people, who suffer in diabetes, and then I think, probably it'll sell more. That probably is that's the reason why I put that in, and it has a good growth potential, and
Very
it
good.
is a small company.
Very good. Thank you, Maskey. And now, Miriam, why don't you tell us why you have that location? If I got it correctly, we were talking over the phone with this. Why you have that as a location for MDT?
Yeah, MDT has a lot of different products. It's very well diversified. It operates all around the world. It's been getting the legal paperwork together to be able to sell their products, but I'm not sure that it would actually be able to sell as much as it needs to be a good investment in terms of stocks and shares of the company. Right now, it just seems as though there isn't enough information to say, okay, they're definitely going to have they're going to have a greater revenue coming in because of all the new product approvals that they're talking about in their investor presentations. As a result, I feel like it's a company that's been around for a long time. It's very well established, and it seems to be getting harder and harder for them to make money. In the last few years, they have not been able to be as profitable as the past. So thank you.
Thank you. Anna, why do you have that as your location for Lear Corporation?
Oh, I picked the mature growth stock, and to me, it's a mature growth. It's going to grow, but it's going to grow slow and steady. The team that they have, the management team that they have, they do a great deal of research before they purchase another company to either diversify themselves or to enhance what they already have. That means that they're going to continue to have large debt on their books, and they're tied to the automobile industry. So it depends on how many automobiles they sell that get sold as to how many vendors will purchase their products, because they're a parts company. They sell, the seats, the heat, the ventilation. So I think it's going to continue to grow, but I think it will just be a slow growth company, just for us to watch. Like I said, interested in them doing the repurchase later this year, as well as laying off 8% of their workforce after making a major purchase of AI. Well, maybe that's why they're laying off people last year.
Okay, thank you. And Lee, tell us why you have that location for Super Microcomputer.
Okay, so Supermicro was established in 1993, but it's a slow grower until recently. So I didn't categorize it as a mature company. Star Location's based on its explosive growth over the past 3 years, and what I view as its potential going forward, assuming AI isn't a passing fancy, which I don't think it is.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's go to the next slide. We've been chatting for over an hour. Now it's time for all of you to be able to take a chance and to be able to vote. And Cheryl, if you can release the poll. And again, what we're asking you is not so much which one you want to have as a buy, but which one of these presentations interests you enough that you'd want to do further research on your own. So go ahead and pick your one. It's free. We won't know who voted for what, but we can at least see what sort of the audience was collecting on. I see we've got just short of 50% voting. Oh, we're moving kind of fast. We're up to 60, 65%. Let's see if we get any higher. Can we get up over 70? Just need another couple votes. Let's see what we got. And in the meantime, once you're done voting, if you have any questions for any of our audience, please please be ready to raise your hand or to be able to sit there and type it in the question box and we'll take care of it. Make sure to download the handouts because that digging into the BI webinar, that slide deck has all of the presentations in there as well. So make sure to get that. Looks like we're staying right at, it hasn't moved in a while. So Cheryl, why don't you close it off and we'll be able to show everyone who won. And they liked Maskey. They liked Amphastar. So congratulations, Maskey, on having the big winner. Thank you all for the people that have presented. And if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand or type something in the question box. We would love to be able to have audience participation. That's sort of what we're trying to do here. So if you have something, please go ahead. Let me see. We did have one question about just getting the slides. I think I was able to take care of that. But any questions on any of these presentations? Does anyone own one of these stocks and want to be able to offer their own insight to it? We're awful quiet out there. All that hard work, Lee, and no one wants to be able to talk with you about super microcomputer.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I think it might be, well, could be a sleeper.
And you actually are putting money where your mouth is. Didn't you buy some, you said?
I put some money, I dabbled back on Friday when it was, when it dropped with all the tech swaps, and I put some more money on it today.
Very, very good. Okay, I don't see any more responses. So Cheryl, let's just keep moving along. And this is how you can be able to reach any of us. This is, there's an email for this presentation. That's digging into BI at Gmail. But you can also be able to reach the people at the Maryland chapter or the DC chapter at those two email addresses. And there's a picture of all of us when we were at BINC. Not everybody, but there were several of us there. And again, this is what makes us so successful is we've had so many different people make presentations. Maskey and Anna, I think you were our 24th and 25th different presenters so far this year. So thank you very much. Next slide.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm the floating head dead center there.
I see you, Cheryl.
I'm trying to block her out. So if you want to be on this, I think most of you are, but you can share this. Again, you don't have to be a member of the DC chapter. You don't even have to be a member of Better Investing. But if you go to the DC chapter, and again, right up at the top, you'll be able to see betterinvesting.org chapters/DC regional. Go ahead and sign up. We don't inundate you with a lot of stuff, but that way you can be informed and you can be able to share that with any other members of your club. Next slide. So again, all of us are volunteers that are doing this, and that's really the heartbeat of Better Investing is that this is how you learn. I wanted to be able to learn and do education, and so that's the reason I became a chapter volunteer. We call them directors. It's a fancy name for not getting paid for your work. But the fact is you learn a lot of skills. I was able to hone my investment skills, and I wanted to be around other people that were interested in this. If we were in a gardening club, we'd all be wanting to talk about what soils and what type of plants we'd like to be able to be putting in here. We like to talk about stocks, so do that. You can be able to be involved to get discounts to some of our national events and the like. And again, it's just a great way to be with like-minded people. So please consider volunteering. Reach out with any of those email addresses and we'll get back to you. Or put a message here in the chat window right now. Next slide, please. So here are the stocks we're going to be looking at in October. We just got them all finalized today. So the stock to study is going to be Paycom. Then we're going to have Lamb and Weston Holding, which is the undervalued feature. And both of those presenters are actually in the audience tonight. And then one came from 5 and 5 Schlumberger, and the other one, Brown and Brown, was actually is going to be the presentation at my club, MCMC, Montgomery County Model Investment Club, on the 17th. I think it's 17th or 18th, third Wednesday of the month. Anyway, so that's what we're going to be looking at in October. If you want to be able to be part of this, you want to be able to feature your club, or you want to be able work on improving your investing skills, please reach out to us. We'd love to be able to have you. We will work with you. And if you have trouble doing PowerPoints, if you have trouble doing your SSG, we're here to help you. That's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to pass on what we've learned from others. Next slide. So I also put it up on Manifest Investing Dashboard. You can be able to track all the stuff that's going on. I'm a little delinquent with the stuff this year, so I'll have to update that maybe in the next day or two. But please, you can look at that. You don't have to be a member of Manifest Investing. It's a separate subscription, but it's a great way to sort of use it as a tracking portfolio. And if we go to the next slide, you will see those are all hyperlinks to be able to get to the public dashboards. You can just, if you downloaded these handouts, again, look for the one that says Digging into BI webinar. That's where you can get this. You can click on those in the PDF and it will take you directly to that location. Again, you don't have to be a member or have a subscription at Manifest. It's free and you can be able to track things going along. Do we have any other questions? I'm looking around. I don't see any more questions. Anyone want to raise their hand? Do we have any hand raisers? I'm going to take a quick look.
Yeah, if you got a question about better investing or joining better investing, you can ask it now as well.
Okay. So yeah, kind of quiet crowd tonight. We're going to have to ask some of our regulars to be prepared to ask some questions. So if you're sitting in the audience and you're a regular, be prepared to ask some questions. You know that the stocks are coming. You already know what's going to be in October. Pick one of them and just sort of evaluate it to go on. All right, let's go to our final. I think it's our final slide, and we'll finish things off. So again, thank you for being here. This is one more link to the YouTube page where you can be able to do that. Again, you can, we'll keep this open for just another moment or two. Make sure to download all those handouts, particularly the slide deck and the like. And please join us on October 7th when we do our next edition of Digging into the BI. Thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Kevin, were you able to grab what you needed to grab?
I have everything I need, yes.
All righty. I will turn it off then. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks again for everyone helping out.
Yep.
Thank you.